Let's assume that Bernie Sanders, who has never been anything but a quaint political sideshow, is finished. Nobody doubts that he sincerely loves socialism, but he probably doesn't want to kill himself campaigning for it. Joe Biden is also finished. All the fake news that's fit for the New York Times to print won't make his Ukraine debacle go away. And we still have the $1.5 billion business deal in China his son cobbled together while Biden was in high level diplomatic negotiations in Beijing to investigate. In any case, his energy is flagging and he too presents health concerns. Last but not least, Kamala Harris has self selected as a political flop. And yes, I know, rumors are circulating about Hillary backed by popular demand. I beat Trump once, she said in a recent interview. I can do it again. But Hillary, darling, he beat you. She needs her medications checked. Besides, if William Barr does his job, she may be too busy defending herself in a court of law to hit the campaign trail again. Elizabeth Warren will be it by default. I can picture her on the debate stage waving her microphone, stabbing the air with her forefinger, and shouting at the Trumpster. But she has a tendency to lose her temper when goaded and to blather even more than usual. Mr. Trump will goad her mercilessly. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take another look at who Warren is, how she sees the world, and what she'd do if she actually won. She's a former Republican, which may account for her radicalism. People who make a dramatic shift in ideology, like those who give up cigarettes or alcohol, often go to extremes to prove the sincerity of their conversion. Hence her metamorphosis from a conservative Oklahoma tadpole into a left-leaning Massachusetts frog, catching on her sticky tongue the latest leftist fads. In the present instance, she appears to have swallowed the agenda laid out for the party by AOC and her sisters in socialism. She's become a surrogate for the squad. Given her views on the role of government, she no doubt feels at ease with that. In her own words, quote, "There is nobody in this country who got rich on their own. Nobody. You built a factory out there, good for you. But I want to be clear. You moved your goods to market on roads the rest of us paid for. You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for. You didn't have to worry that marauding bands would come and seize everything at your factory. Now look, you built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless you. Keep a hunk of it. But part of the underlying social contract is you take a hunk of that and pay forward for the next kid who comes along." Unquote. There you have it, folks. If it weren't for the government nurturing, protecting, and guiding us, fools like Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, and Sergey Brin, let alone Donald Trump, wouldn't have a pot to piss in. And never mind the personal income taxes they pay to help build roads, schools, and hospitals for us down and outers. It's not enough. It's never enough. Mrs. Warren proposes to impose excess wealth taxes on them and other rich class enemies to redress the social and economic inequality that by their miserable existence they bring about for the rest of us. Mrs. Warren and her husband, by the way, are worth millions. But of course, they aren't worth enough millions to have to fret about forking over any of their excess wealth. It's the usual liberal hypocrisy. None of these bozos, Biden, Sanders, Warren, Booker, Beto, and the rest, expect to be subject to the policies they have in mind for us. They'll be in power. And we have Mrs. Clinton as an appalling example of the kind of white privilege that brings with it. Apart from Mrs. Warren's jaundiced view of people who create wealth and jobs, which she sees as nothing more than creating inequality, her vision for us includes throwing a sop to virtually every victim or entitled group on the leftist checklist. There are 50 items. To name them all would keep us here until the cows come home, but a few examples at random from her website, which is a liberal tour de force if ever there was one, will give you an idea. Attacks on corporate lobbying. Using the military to tackle climate change. Ending the maternal mortality crisis amongst black women, that I doubt anyone knew we had. A fair and welcoming immigration system to promote, you guessed it, diversity. Getting rid of the Electoral College. Securing rights and equality for the LGBTQ community. The Q, I learned, got tacked on to cover those who question whether they're a girl or a boy. Valuing the work of women of color, by which she doesn't mean white women. Empowering tribal nations and indigenous peoples. Leveling the playing field for entrepreneurs of color. Again, whites need not apply. Safe and affordable housing, universal child care, canceling college debt, etc., etc. Mrs. Warren would like us to believe that soaking the rich will fund this government largesse, but don't be fooled. She could contrive to confiscate the entire excess wealth of the country, and it wouldn't keep the lights on for 15 minutes. The middle class, as usual, will pay for it, which may explain why she has been bashful about discussing publicly a topic as indelicate as ratcheting up the government's take from your paycheck. No point in stirring up the masses with that detail before the election. The cynicism and dishonesty of these people makes me sick. Politicians like Elizabeth Warren promising free everything provided by a loving, caring government are bribing taxpayers with their own money. Moreover, it's impossible to believe that she, or any of the hopefuls on the Democratic debate stage, actually believes that the leftist agenda will be good for the country. Skepticism is justified, because while they're fleecing us, they're either lining their own pockets or setting themselves up to be flush after they leave office. As Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have most recently demonstrated, power not only corrupts, but is a surefire way to rake in cash. Why not for Mrs. Warren, too? Except the smart money says she loses to Trump. Unless the Dems can pull a super rabbit out of the hat, and time is short, she'll go down in history as one more proof of why we elected Mr. Trump in the first place. Thanks for watching. Be sure to click like and subscribe to support the channel and pass the link along. We'll see you back here next time.